What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to a brand new episode on my channel. As always, I'm Jay, and today, guys, I'm finally talking about Spider-Man No Way Home while it's hot, no less. And the thing is, guys, is that I'm going to be delving into some spoilers, which by now, with the film having been released for several days now, spoilers are fair freaking game. Plus, a couple great things about the plot actually were spoiled in some leaks and everything before, so if you were lucky enough not to know about that, here's your last stop. So if you haven't seen the film, go check it out, and then we can talk all things Spider-Man No Way Home. But without further ado, guys, it's time to talk Spider-Man No Way Home. This film right here, getting to the main point, is this is one of those things where they knew what they wanted to do for the audiences. This was like a culmination of all of the Spider-Man films, and this is basically Spider-Man's Endgame event right here. It's, we had a few years back with Endgame, which is the culmination of the first, several years of the Avengers films, the first, 20 plus films all rolled into that one magnificent ending. And then here we have all of the Spider-Man films. That's the original trilogy, the two Amazings, and of course, all of Tom Holland's films rolled into this. And again, drawing inspiration from Into the Spider-Verse is definitely something that I think that they were looking to encompass, but in live action format, and they knocked it out of the park. So the thing that really struck me in this film was just how well every single one of the original actors from all the other entries, whether it was villain or even the Spider-Man themselves, walked right back into the characters. It's like, dusting off your favorite book and getting right back into the feel and the mood of it. It never skipped a beat, and Toby and Andrew are so comfortable as the older Peters, and honestly, if they called them tomorrow, I would hope that they would say yes to doing more iterations of their different various series. But, that's probably a slim chance of that happening. But more than likely, it would be awesome if one of them could come into the Venom-verse, as it were, and kind of really, throw down with that Venom. And since Toby already had his Venom, maybe let's give it to Andrew Garfield, since he never had a chance to go against that in any capacity just yet. So as far as the actual movie goes, the plot was actually pretty inventive, in my opinion. So at the end of Far From Home, Spider-Man is framed and his identity is revealed to the whole entire world, but instead of the embracing kind of moment, just like when Iron Man did it and Tony Stark admitted that he was Iron Man, this has a severe backfiring because now Spider-Man, MJ, and Ned, they're all just basically blacklisted from anything that they want to do in life because people still believe that Peter is a murderer, essentially, and they still believe that Mysterio was in fact an alternate dimension being who was a superhero who was killed wrongfully and everything like that. Now, even though Peter has essentially been all but proven not guilty, and I say proven not guilty because there's not really anything in the court of public opinion that is saving his reputation for a majority of the population. Not to mention this universe's J. Jonah Jameson going hog wild and basically dogging him out on a daily basis. Just, it was funny because at the beginning of the film, J. Jonah Jameson was just in a single man thing. He was in an office with a green screen and some lights, and then as time passes on, he's got a whole big crew and he's got a big production because people fed into that whole thing, and it's definitely mirrors some personalities online, shall we say, and I think they borrowed a lot from real life. And not to kind of get too close to home, I think it was very fascinating and interesting that they did that. They integrated, as it was rumored, Matt Murdock in there as his lawyer, which fanboy moment. And the theater I saw, it was a good sized theater. It was an IMAX theater with a lot of people there, and we all freaking enjoyed right at the same beats, enjoyed all the action and all this stuff. So it was a great experience, and it was so cool to see Daredevil back on screen, played by Charlie Cox yet again, which the jury's out as to whether he is 100% the Netflix version or if he's basically playing, Matt Murdock. Charlie Cox is playing Matt Murdock Daredevil with a little bit of a sweeter or softer side in this MCU iteration. I like to think that it's still the same Daredevil. He's just gone through everything that he needed to be to become who he was meant to be. And it was brilliant when a brick was thrown through the window and he caught it really quick. I thought that was like a oh shit moment. He just plays it off as being a very good lawyer as to how he ended up catching that freaking brick and everything. Going from there, the whole point of it is that as they're getting older and they're spending, their last year in high school, they're trying to get into college. So Peter, unfortunately, again, because MJ and Ned are associated with him, attempts to get into college are essentially stonewalled. And this forces Peter to go to Doctor Strange to try and cast a spell, that way people will forget he's Spider-Man. Meanwhile, as he's doing it, it ruins the spell because he keeps on trying to change it a total of 5 to 6 times, as Doctor Strange says. And then this is where stuff starts going wrong. We see all these different villains from all the different previous Spider-Man movies coming right into the fray, and it was pretty ingenious how they interacted with Peter. The different nuances, it's like, okay, well, what do they have to, offer against him as far as challenge, but also how can he end up overcoming them and everything like that. And then at a certain point, because of the villains piling up and whatnot, it actually becomes a tale of Tom Holland's Spider-Man trying to fix them and cure them and stuff before sending them to their respective universes where they are meant to die by their respective Spider-Man's hands. And all this is, of course, because, Aunt May instilled in him that, he has to actually put forth effort, and he shouldn't just leave them to die. He's not that type of person, and this Tom Holland Spider-Man definitely isn't built that way. And I don't think any of the Spider-Men were built that way, which unfortunately later becomes her undoing later on in the film when everything backfires, and at that point, Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin rears his ugly head yet again. And then the thing is that moment came, and the wind was knocked out of the theater because we all knew as soon as you get hit with that glider, you're dead. And I was like really shocked. I was like, why are they going to kill Aunt May? Why are they going to do this? And then she gets up. So for a brief moment or two, I was teased. I thought that she was going to survive. But then, of course, she collapses and all the blood's pouring out and stuff. And we have one of the most emotional moments of the entire run from Tom Holland as Spider-Man. We had that with Endgame, we had that with him dying in Infinity War, and we've had that in a couple different spots here and there, but this was another banger of a moment. And that's one of the things about this film, is this is the darkest of Tom Holland's Spider-Man films, because it literally puts him at his lowest and then puts him even further down below. And what eventually saves him is his camaraderie and his friendship, but also his companions and his other Spider-Men who have gone through those trials and tribulations. And actually, as a matter of fact, you get closure with all of the Spider-Men. You get closure with Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, who had suffered the loss of Gwen Stacy because he couldn't save her, and this is something that he admits has haunted him forever. Tobey Maguire is still haunted by the death of his Uncle Ben. So getting back to the main part of it, after May's death, after the Spider-Man have come through, this is where some of the best nostalgia, fan service, fan baiting, whatever you want to call it, happens. Because when Ned ends up opening up portals after he has Doctor Strange's ring, obviously they're trying to get Peter, they're trying to find Spider-Man, but then they end up getting the two other Spider-Man. First, Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man comes through, and he has to prove that he's Spider-Man. So he sticks himself to the ceiling with one hand. Meanwhile, MJ is still just like very sus with him. So she's like, go up, get up, crawl around. He's like, you want me to crawl around? This isn't enough? This is enough. And that was like, I just couldn't stop having the biggest grin on my face. And then when Toby came through, he's just so unsuspecting and nerdy as Peter that he's just like, hi guys, I just came through this, it's gone. Like when he ends up seeing Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, they have this real quick moment, and then they both shoot webs at each other, and it's like, oh my god! I just couldn't stop. After that point, every single minute there was something to marvel about in this film. And the thing is that these Spider-Men came back in supporting roles. They came through, they had so much dialogue, they had so much chemistry together. Literally, they actually were doing their science-y thing to try and do all the cures for all the villains. And then beyond that, the action sequence where they're all swinging and stuff like that, chills, goosebumps. I mean, I know I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, but this is some good nostalgia fan service. This is the type of thing that you go to the movies for, and the box office numbers are killing it. It's showing it. It's on track to be the second biggest opening of all time. It's going to outpace Avengers Endgame potentially, and you know what? Even if you're a hater, you got to give it up to this movie. It brought back the other two Spider-Man and did them justice, and again, provided that much-needed closure if you were a fan of any of the two other ones. The ending battle alone, where they're taking down all the villains and they're trying to get onto the same page, but they can't, is just gold. It's gold. yeah, guys, the thing is we're not part of a team. I was part of a team. I was part of the Avengers. You were part of the Avengers? That's awesome. What is the Avengers? And I was like, oh my God, this is so good. I can't stop gushing over all these moments. It's things you would never think in a million years you would ever see on the screen, especially from where we started from as comic book fans and where the films were versus where we are now. It's just another peak of a milestone. Of course, the film ends. They all take down their respective villains. Dr. Octopus actually turns good because Peter was able to actually fix his transmitter and fix that so that way the arms weren't controlling him anymore, which it was kind of a moot point because at that point, Peter had his suit controlling the arms Bluetooth style. So that was pretty cool. And yeah, the film ends on another dramatic high note because Tom Holland's Spider-Man goes toe-to-toe with the Green Goblin, who, killed Aunt May. And the thing is that he was so close to killing him. He was actually duking it out much better than Tobey's Spider-Man was in the first Spider-Man film. A lot more ruthless, and he was just going in for the kill. There was the moment where he narrowly missed Goblin after Goblin dodged him, and that indent would have killed him, would have made his freaking head explode. And then as he's beating him down and beating him down and beating him down, he grabs the glider and he's about to basically just kill him. And then Tobey Spider-Man comes out of nowhere and just stops him. And he just, there's no words that were needed at that point. You just gave him the look and just looked at him and at that point it was just like, oh man, you just, the emotion was just dripping off of the screen, and that's the stuff that you live for. And they threw me for another loop because they stabbed Tobey, and I thought they were going to kill his ass. I thought they were going to straight up kill Tobey, and I'm like, no! Don't kill him! Don't kill him! And luckily they didn't. They were just making a joke out of it, and, just how much pain that Tobey Spider-Man was in. And kudos to the nodding on his back because of all the shit that he's gone through. And I thought that, again, well played, writers, well played. They managed to sneak in the Spider-Man pointing thing, even though they weren't really in costume when they did that. They worked that into the lab scene, which I thought was hilarious. And just deadpan, I mean, oh my God. One of my favorite lines was when Ned comes to, Tobey's Peter, and he's just saying, so did you have any friends? Or something like that. He's like, yeah, I had a best friend. He died right in my arms. Right after he tried to kill me. This stuff writes itself, but it is so true, and it's so funny. Oh, man. Side tangent. Doctor Strange in this film is great. He's hilarious, and a lot of the cool, funny moments in this film in the first half come from him trying to just basically get Peter and stop him from, trying to do what he wants to do. Obviously, Peter wins and kind of dupes him because science and geometry. And, it ends up pushing it forward to a point where we discover some little things with the spider powers. Apparently, the spider sense makes the body instinctually do different things, including annoyingly, do the gotcha thing whenever he's out of his physical form, which I thought was incredibly funny. Another fun fact is the fact that Doctor Strange was in this film with Spider-Man. Two characters co-created by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko, and I thought that was a perfect kind of nod and wink to, both of those characters who were both created by, the same pair, essentially, and it was just awe-inspiring. So the grand ending, of course, Spider-Man has to make one more sacrifice. Doctor Strange comes through and he can't stop the portals from opening, and you're seeing little tidbits and teases of other villains. Rhino, Kraven, I think I saw Silver Sable, some other people, of course. The thing of it is that because Peter got everyone into this mess, he just told Doctor Strange, make everyone forget who Peter Parker is, and then that solves the issue of all the multiverse people trying to come through, because what was bringing them through was the fact that the spell was basically broken and bringing everyone who knew that Spider-Man was Peter Parker, whether it was from other universes or his universe. They were all coming and converging right at the source point in the epicenter, which was the MCU at that point. Peter is basically erased from everyone's memory per the spell, and by the end of the film, his aunt is dead, so there really isn't a valid reason for him not to do this. What I thought was really very sad, though, and really hit me was the fact that he's basically a loner now. He's orphaned, and he's got to fight for himself and be on his own. And an apartment, much like how Tobey's apartment was in the other Spider-Man movies, with obviously some differences. is where he ended up at. And, you know, I don't know if they were intending for this to be the last film of the series for the run of Tom Holland, basically. I hope it's not. I hope Sony and Marvel keep this deal going because it's very good for both of them. And, you know, Tom has scratched the surface of this character, and I think he's got a good longevity factor with it, of course. The film ends, it's Christmas, and Spidey's swinging through the streets in his classic blue and red outfit, and it's just like John Romita's version jumped right off the screen. You know, you didn't get 100% good look at it, but the blue, the shimmery blue, the red and the black webbing and everything, and he actually handmade the costume, which was insinuated by the way the fabric was and everything like that. And, you know, it ends with just kind of that blackout with Spider-Man coming at the screen. And yeah, I mean, what a rush, what a ride. This puts Spider-Man where everyone kind of who criticized him using that technology and relying on the Avengers, essentially this puts him at that spot where they needed him to be, where he's starting off, he's on his own, he's relying on his skills and his wits, basically. End credit scenes, first was Eddie Brock from Venom movies with Tom Hardy, just sitting at a random bar talking to somebody about aliens and all this stuff. And it was kind of sad because he came into the universe and then he just got pulled right out before doing anything. But he left some of the symbiote behind. So, that being there, now that opens up the door for Tom Holland Spider-Man to do something with the black suit. So overall, guys, as you can imagine, because I just basically gushed in this entire video, I really enjoyed Spider-Man No Way Home. Is it the best, most perfect Spider-Man film? You know, I don't know yet. I don't know yet, because for me, the best Spider-Man film is a Spider-Man film that is uncompromisingly Spider-Man. And this is that, but I mean, more in terms of it's got that fan service, it's close to the comics, and then it delivers that kind of entertainment that you wouldn't expect to find. So I would say on this one is on the upper echelon of Spider-Man movies. I would say this and Spider-Man 2 are basically the two Spider-Man films that are like tied for the best, in my opinion, personally. And yeah, it's so hard because this is such a great film, and I appreciate the other Spider-Man films for various reasons. But isn't it a bitch that this film had so many villains crammed into it, but too many villains did not bog the film down, whereas the main criticism of Spider-Man 3 was that there was too many moving parts, too many characters, and too many villains. Finally, this film proves that a Spider-Man film can have as many villains as it needs to, as many villains as it wants to, but it can balance that shit out and deliver a perfect, awesome, fun time at the theaters. And like I said, guys, I watched it one time in IMAX, but I'm definitely going to be seeing it maybe 2 more times before it gets out of theater, I think. And it's been a long time since I've been this excited for a Marvel movie or any movie in general, where I want to go and see it multiple times in the theater. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining me on this video. I know it got a bit lengthy, but thank you so much again. Like, comment, subscribe if you dug the video, and if you are sub, hit that bell button. That way you never miss a moment of my content. But until next time, guys, as always, I'm Jay. So take care, and bye.